Claire, and I created this course to teach and inform and just contribute to the community as an IT professional and also self study. So, the objective is to contribute to the IT community, to also learn while I'm going along and also to do my own research and also to able to explain something in a much simpler form than it might have been done, just to clear to add some clarity to concept to IT security concept. And I'm also studying for the Security Plus. That's the Security Plus SY0-601. All right. Yeah, and this channel is called Syntech Cybersecurity. All right. So we will dive into things to cybersecurity concepts and yeah. So everything cybersecurity, information security, cybersecurity. Uh, because that's where the with all this information that is being collected by our phone and our smart device, it cybersecurity is paramount at the moment. Yeah, so let's begin. And at the start, I will tell you what is. So if you are planning on taking the CompTIA Security Plus, this will be a very good guide. Yeah, as I this follow the syllabus and every topic will be covered. All right. So this is just the first video of many videos. All right. And happy new year to you guys. Let us begin. All right. So the SY0-601. So the test details. So the number of questions. So there are 90 questions, and the questions are multiple choice based and performance based. All right, so the length of the examination is 90 minutes, and it is recommended to have at least 2 years of experience, or yeah, so just to be in the IT field for roughly 2 years will be good. So if you are at an entry level in IT field and you are planning on specializing in security, the Security Plus is definitely a foot in. It's definitely a good stepping stone in terms of understanding the IT security framework and the concepts and how to apply the concept in defending IT systems. All right. So, an IT system administrator with a focus on security, hands-on technical information security experience, broad knowledge of security concept. All right, and the passing score is 75 on a scale of 100 to 900. All right, so the on the next slide, we'll go through the objectives, or otherwise called the domains. All right, so let us go on to slide number 3. All right, so in total it's totally out of 100%, and the first domain, which is domain 1, focuses on attacks, threats, and vulnerabilities. All right, so we will dissect everything. So we are going to go through the different types of attacks, the different type of threats, and the different types of vulnerabilities. All right, then on the second domain, we'll talk about architectures and designs. All right. So, in terms of the designs of systems and the architecture. in terms of to be able to apply better cybersecurity frameworks, all right, our best practices. And the third one is implementation, all right. So after we have learned the concepts, we are going to implement them, all right. But we will be we will be learning and applying as we go along, all right. And then at the end of the course, we will do a summary of everything, all right. Yes, so a lot of things in store, exciting things in store, all right. So, and then the fourth one is operation and incident response, all right. So in terms of the operational of an organization and our incidents and manage, and yeah, because that is a critical part of it also, the management of incidents for breaches that have already occurred, all right. And the fifth and final one is governance, risk, and compliance, all right. Because at the moment, governments and regulatory bodies are ensuring that IT security best practices are adhered to, and it is important as an IT professional for you to understand um, where everything fit in terms of IT security, and ensure that we follow the best practice and ensure that our organization is compliant. All right. So today's security professional. So this is the building block of why we do what we do as IT security professional. All right. So the basic. So in terms of to understand cybersecurity, the principle is to CIA is a fundamental principle of information security or cybersecurity. Uh, so we want to ensure that CIA is maintained, it's adhered to. So we are basically protecting that. So that is what we are defending. All right. So we want to ensure that data is is confidential. All right. So confidential data or information is confidentiality is maintained, and integrity is maintained, and that the data that is needed is always available. All right. So once one of these uh, fundamental um, pillar of cybersecurity of data of information technology is not available, then that is considered a breach or a threat. All right. So it is our job to ensure that data is always confidential, uh, and the integrity of the data is maintained, and the data is always available. So confidentiality, this is keeping information and data from being accessed, seen, read by anyone who is not authorized to do so. Information is accessible only to the authorized personnel. All right, so data should be stored in such a way where only authorized people are able to access it. All right, so we should ensure that proper password is on the system or on a particular database to ensure that only the intended users are able to access data. All right. So when you're at your place of work and there are shared folders and only a particular set of people can access those folders, and so that is what we mean by confidentiality. All right. And integrity, trustworthiness of data for resources. Protect the data from modification, deletion by unauthorized parties, and ensuring that when authorized people make changes that should have been made, the damage can be undone. All right. So integrity is very critical also. We want to ensure that no unauthorized modification or deletion of the data has happened. All right. So I want to ensure that the data that I'm seeing, the data that is present, no unauthorized change. So no changes is made to this data that was not done by the an approved user. All right. Yes. So and availability, access and availability now accessible when required by authorized users, systems access channel and authorization mechanism must all be working properly for information they provide and protect to be available when needed. All right. So you want to so for instance, if you want to go to a particular website, uh, as the IT professional of that organization, it is your duty to ensure that the website is available. So if, for example, if you want to go to Amazon.com, it is their duty as a member of their IT team to ensure that the site is available. All right. And we will dive into that in terms of how to protect um, your organization from those types of attacks uh, that can cause your web page or a particular software to become inaccessible. All right. And we will dive into those in the future. All right. So data breach risk. Data breach risk, security incidents take place when an organization experience a breach in compatibility, integrity, and or accessibility of information in IT system. All right. So as long as one of those, so if one of the CIA triad is not upheld, then we can safely say that a IT breach, a data breach has occurred. All right. The incident can be intentional, which we refer to as malicious, or unintentional. All right. So system misconfiguration or natural disaster. All right. So if uh, a storm should affect your data site, and your your users are unable to access the system, then that is where the availability is impacted, and then there is definitely a data breach. All right. Note briefly, it is the responsibility of the IT security professionals to understand the risk and apply measures to mitigate or reduce the risk of an acceptable level. All right. So there will be risk, and it is based on your organization. You will assess and determine what is accept, accept, acceptable based on the specification of the organization and based on the framework in which the organization operates in. Our CIA and the triad mutually exclusive. All right. So each point of the CIA and the triangle are exact opposite of each other. If one if a CIA principle is absent, then a DAD principle is present. All right. And there's a triangle there to explain it, and we will go through it. All right. Thus, you cannot have both at the same time. You could not have both denial and availability at the same time. It is either one or the other. All right. So we will start from confidentiality. So we will go clockwise, and let us start at confidentiality and disclosure. All right. So it is our aim as IT security professional to ensure that data is confidential. If it's not confidential, then it was disclosed to an unintended user. Someone that should not see a particular information, that should not have access to a particular information, is able to access it, and it is disclosed. All right. So they are mutually exclusive. So it is either or either. All right. So we are preventing disclosure by ensuring that the information is confidential. All right. And integrity, we are ensuring that the information that is stored on our system, or that is being transmitted, or that is in use, is not altered. All right. So we are ensuring that the integrity is maintained. And the final one is availability. All right. So if there is a denial of service attack, which we will explain in the future, in future uh, videos. So it's either a service is available or it is denied. All right. So now this we are clearing up the concept, and you can pause the video to go over. All right. So we will explain a bit further in terms of what is DAD. So disclosure occur when unauthorized individual gains access to confidential information. Disclosure happen when we fail to achieve CIA triad goals of confidentiality. Alteration occurs when security mechanisms fail to ensure the integrity of data, and such CIA triad's goal of integrity is failed when alteration happen. Denial occurs when events take place that prevent authorized users from accessing a system for legitimate reasons. All right. So you see where everything, so it explains it, the triangle that was on the previous slide. All right. And now we will explain types of breach and the impact of breaches. All right. So we already explained what that a breach occurs, a data breach occurs when CIA is there is not maintained. So when there is denial of service, when there is disclosure, or when there is alteration. All right. And the risk are financial risk. All right. It's a situation that exposes an organization to damages that impact it m- monetarily. All right. So it's one of the primary goals of attackers. 80% of the time, the goal to is financial financial goals. Is so they are trying to access credit card details, bank accounts. So financial risk is number one. All right. Then we have the reputational risk, a situation that exposes an organization to damages to its branding, perception, or stakeholder stakeholders' confidence. All right. And reputational risk is very uh important also, because if because your branding is important, and that can be the catalyst for the beginning of the end of your organization as you know it, because if your customers are not confident in your brand, in your system, uh, then they will choose to go to your competitor. All right. So it's important that IT professional for us to understand the risk and the reason why we are doing it. All right. Then do we go to strategic risk, a situation that affects an organization from achieving its objectives or goals. All right. So whatever goals or strategic plan that the organization has in place, this affects it. All right. So if there's a data leak, this affects it in so much way, because it's like it is a domino effect. So once there is a financial issue or there is a reputational issue, um, in terms of the strategy, the plan that the organization has in place, everything gets derailed. All right. And let's go to the operational risk, a situation that impacts an organization ability to carry out its daily function. All right. Yes. So as said previously, in most cases, it can just be a chain reaction. So in terms of daily operational can't be carried out because systems are impacted. So for example, an important one is the availability of data. If your users are unable to access data, that will impact the entire operational of your organization and cause, and there would be an operational risk. All right. So there's always an operational risk once there is a breach. All right. And then we have compliance risks. All right. Compliance risk where um, based on standards set out by government or regulatory bodies. So there is a risk once a breach has occurred. There is a risk that your organization will be penalized and will be will face some sanction as it relates to not being compliant. Applying security control, technical control. All right. So we are going to explain different type of security controls in terms of to mitigate or prevent those breach, to prevent data breach. All right. So technical control consists of the hardware and software components that protect systems against cyber attacks. All right. So it's the hardware and the software components that is implemented. All right. So we talk about things like firewall, intrusion detection systems, encryptions, and information and authentication mechanisms are examples of technical controls. All right. So technical in the sense that it requires technical expertise, IT technical, so technical, so people that are technically skilled and knowledgeable to implement and use those systems. All right. And they will implement, and the implementation methods are access control list, network traffic filters can control incoming and outgoing traffics, and configuration rules, instructional code that guides the execution of system when information passes through it. All right. So these are some of the methods that are implemented by the technical expert. Yes. So that will be you in the future. That will be us in the future. All right. Based on what, if you plan on specializing in the technical side, or if you plan to go into the regulatory side, the governance side, in yes. So what is important for us to understand what is done and by whom everything is done. All right. Then we go to the administrative security control. All right. So we're talking about this is where we talk about security control refers to policies, procedures, or guidelines that define personnel or business practices in accordance with the organization's security goal. All right. So this is important, just as important, the administrative security control in terms of the policies that is put in place. Yes, that the organization must adhere to, and these are things that as IT security professional that you will be a part of implementing and creating policies and strategies to ensure that your organization is protected. All right. The process that monitors and enforce the administrative control are management controls. All right. So this is a different type of control, but the process that monitors and enforce the administrative control, we call it the management control. The security control that focuses on the management of risk and the management of information system security. Operational control, the security control that are primarily implemented and executed by people as opposed to system. All right. So that's people based and not system. All right. So most of these are in terms of people and procedures and what is done from a soft side and not necessarily a technical side. Applying security controls, administrative controls. For example, a security policy is a management control, but its security requirements are implemented by people, operational control, and systems technical control. All right. So you understand how everything ties in together. We are a security policy that was created by the administrative control where where that is where that is implemented by the operational control and the system and implemented by the technical control. All right. So it ties everything ties in together, being a part. So when you understand the hierarchy of the how the IT security team function, you will see how everything ties in together. All right, applying security controls, uh, physical controls. So physical control, the physical thing, that the gate, the fence, the security cameras, the yes. So physical controls are the implementation of security measures in a defined structure used to deter or prevent unauthorized access to sensitive materials. Examples of physical controls are closed circuit surveillance cameras, motion or thermal alarm systems, security guards, picture IDs, locked or deadbolt steel doors, and biometrics. Applying security controls, preventative control. Preventative controls intend to stop a security issue before it occurs. All right, as the word say, preventative. All right, so you're preventing something from uh, by implementing a solution, by implementing a tool before the issue or the problem has occurred. All right. So based on your assessment, you will implement a tool before preempting what might occur and implementing a tool to stop it before the occurrence. All right. So examples of preventative controls include hardening, that's a concept we'll explain further, security awareness training, security guards, change management, and account disable policy. All right, and we'll go to these. All right, yes, we will go through this further. All right, so some of these are self-explanatory. All right, applying security guards. Sorry, applying security controls, applying security controls, detective controls. All right, so detective controls identify security events that have already occurred. Intrusion detection systems are detective controls. Examples of detective control include log monitoring, SIEM, trend analysis, security audit, video surveillance, and motion detection. All right, so we're still up on security control. Now we are focusing on detecting. All right, applying. So log monitoring is a diagnostic method used to analyze real-time events or store data to ensure application availability and to assess the impact of the change in state of application performance. Security information and event management is a set of tools and services offering a holistic view of an organization's information security by of operational logs from various systems. All right, so these tools are mostly analysis of data and systems to ensure that to detect if there is any changes, if there's any change in data, if and we'll go further as we go along to explain those tools and the how those tools work, the mechanism of those tools. Yes, so yeah, so these are the detective controls. All right, so this is a diagram of how the SIME tool works, the security information and event management tool, how it actually works. All right. So you will see where it's analyzing the from the top left, that's the system logs and security controls. It's doing an analysis of that. You're seeing the configuration of and asset information. It's analyzing the network maps. So these are different sites, but it is doing an analysis of how data is being transferred and to see if there are any changes and everything. All right. Applying security control, detective control. Trend analysis, the practice of gathering information and attempting to identify a pattern in the information gathered from an application log output. The output of the trend analysis is usually in a graph or table form. All right. So that's a trend analysis. So based on previous log, why is so the system will analyze to see why if there's a change, if there is a change based on previous data. All right. And then we have the security audit, a management that force a measurement that focuses on cybersecurity standards, guidelines, and procedures, as well as the implementation of these controls. The security audit is usually conducted by trained third party entities or by internal resources in preparation for an external audit. All right. So we have that also, the security audit. but we will dive into these in later videos and later on in this course. Applying security controls, corrective controls. All right. So once the breach has occurred, there there are also tools that we use to do the correction. All right. And examples of corrective control include ISPs, backups, system recoveries. Network security technology that ISP is a network security technology that monitors network traffic to detect anomalies in traffic flows. ISP security system intercept network traffics and and can quickly prevent malicious activities from dropping packets or resetting connection. All right. And here we see a diagram of a network intrusion prevention system. Yes, so it's a physical device, and yeah, this is how it works. So you can see the flow of data from the corporate network, so from the web server and the email server, and it goes through the firewall, then it goes through the ISP, where all traffic passes through the ISP, then it goes through the router, and then through the internet. All right. And as stated before, the ISP, uh, it monitors network traffic to detect anomalies in traffic flow. Um, it intercepts network traffic and can quickly prevent malicious activities from dropping packets and resetting connections. All right. So it is one of those devices that we implement to protect our organization. All right. Along with the firewall, and yeah, so it's one of those tools that you will learn more as we go along. Data protection. Data protection is the primary duty of cybersecurity professionals to maintain the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data. Data state. All right, so data, all data. So there are three states for every data on your phone and your laptop, everything. All right, so it's either the data is at rest, the data is in motion or in transit, or the data is in use. All right. So the term data at rest refers to data that is being stored. This could be data stored in local network files, share, workstation endpoints, and removable drives on cloud-based system or production servers that host web application, databases, files, backup images, and even off-site location where long-term physical backups are stored. All right, so they call this data at rest. It's not being used by an application, and it is not being transferred. It is stored on an hard drive somewhere. All right, so we call this data at rest, and it's important for you to understand the- where the different states of data and how to protect the data at each state. All right, then we have data in transit or motion. So this is data that is being moved from one device to another. All right. So data in motion or transit refers to data that is being transferred from one system or location to another. This usually refers to data passing over private network or the public internet, and including data that is passing over a medium such as Ethernet, Wi-Fi 802.11, and other wireless frequencies such as 5G, Bluetooth, NFCs, and others. Data in transit primarily represents a potential threat to confidentiality. The data could be sniffed by an unauthorized users during transmission, and to integrity, the data could be modified by an attacker in transit. Al- Although availability should also be considered, the network appliance could be saturated with traffic and fail to deliver data. All right, so it's just showing what are some of the what are s- what are s- some of the attacks that can happen while data is in transit. All right, where it cannot be intercepted. So if proper encryption is not in place, the data can be intercepted, and the data can be modified, the data can be disclosed, and the data can there can be overflow in traffic, and where the data become inaccessible. All right, and there's an issue where the data is not available. Now we are talking about data in use. All right, so when you're on your application, the data that is being used. All right, so we're talking about when you're using an app on your phone, when you're using the web browser. Yeah, so we call it data in use. So data in use refers to data on computer memory or any data currently being processed by application as the CPU and memory are utilized. Data in use is of increasing concern to businesses, government agencies, and other institutions. Data in use or memory can contain sensitive data, including digital certificates, encryption keys, intellectual properties, and personally identifiable information. Comprising data in use enables users to encrypt data at rest and data in motion. For example, someone with access to random access memory can parse that memory to locate the encryption data for data at rest. Once they have obtained the encryption key, they can decrypt encrypted data at rest. Threats to data in use can come in the form of cold boot attack, malicious hardware devices, ro- rootkit, and bootkit. All right. So that is data in use, and it explains the vulnerabilities and what can happen. All right. We will dive in detail as stated. And how do we protect these data? And we will the, this is a concept that you must have heard about, or you must have yeah. But we are going to clear it up. This is encryption. You would have heard about it on you would have seen it when using your application, when using WhatsApp. There's a notification to say that your message is encrypted. All right. So data encryption is a process of encoding information. This process converts the original presentation of the information known as plain text into an alternative form known as ciphertext. Ideally, an unauthorized party can decipher a ciphertext back to plain text and access the original information. All right. So, yeah. So, when data is encrypted, the your text that you send on WhatsApp, that goes through a process where if some that if someone should obtain that data, that is not the user that you sent it to, they will not be able to read it. All right. So So, for example, look on the diagram below. So, if you send hello to your friend and I somehow access that message um, from the server where it is stored, I will see the text that will show it will not be readable. All right, so it will not say hello. All right, and only the user will see hello. All right, so that's just a basic example. The So a simple illustration of public key encryption, one of the most widely used form of encryption. All right, so we talk about public key and private key. Yeah, so that is just a type of encryption. Yes, data loss prevention. All right, so we'll talk about data loss prevention. Data loss prevention software detect potential data breaches slash data exfiltration transmission and prevents them from monitoring and prevent them by monitoring, detecting, and blocking sensitive data while in use, in motion, and at rest. Network technology is typically installed at network egress point near the perimeter. It It analyzes network traffic to detect sensitive data that is being sent in violation of information security policies. Multiple security control points may report activities to be analyzed by a central management server. All right. So the data prevention is a software, it's a tool where it analyzes the systems to check to see if there is any sensitive data anywhere on your system, to check to see if there is any sensitive data is being sent across your network that is not encrypted. Yeah, so basically that is what a data loss prevention system is. All right. So that's it. That's another tool that is critical to ensuring that there is no data breach. All right, and then the next tool, um, the n- the next it is implemented at the endpoint at host base. All right, so we are still on the data loss prevention system, and here we're focusing on the endpoint. So we are talking about on the server, on your workstation, on yeah. So the system runs on internal end user workstation or servers like network-based system. Endpoint-based technologies can address internal as well as external communication. It can therefore be used to control information flow between groups or type of users. They can also control emails and instant messaging communication between before they reach the corporate archive, such that a block communication will not be identified in a subsequent legal discovery situation. All right, so that shows how it work in terms of preventing, ensure that so some analysis of data is done before it is sent across the network. All right, and that is done from the endpoint and not over the network. All right, so now we will go to the no now we will focus on data prevention, um the concept of pattern matching. All right, so the software is designed to discover, analyze content and context text in order to determine if the data presented matches a pattern or expression of a social security, credit card, HIPAA, or keyword. All right. So the data, so this is a mechanism or a function of the data loss prevention system, all right, where it will scan to check to see if the data found matches, for example, social security or your tax identification number or your credit card number or your health, whatever personal identifiable information, all right, or sensitive data. So based on what it is, what was entered before. All right. So once a pattern is matched, a violation or alert can be generated. The alert is sent to a management console for review by a support analyst and incident triage. Data loss prevention mechanism action. All right, our data mechanism, one of the function, and this one is called watermarking. All right, and what watermarking is the mechanism by which a digital tag is added to a sensitive document. Then the data loss prevention system can monitor systems and network traffic, um, monitor system and network traffic of unencrypted content with those tags. All right. So a tag is added to a document, and once it will consistently monitor the network to constantly monitor the endpoint devices or the host devices to see if those document with that specific tag is detected. All right. And now we're talking about, now we are going on to the final type of data loss system mechanism or feature. We're talking about data minimization. All right. So according to the European Data Protection Supervisor, data minimization means that a data controller should limit the collection of personal information to what is directly relevant and necessary to accomplish a specific purpose. They should also retain the data only for as long as is necessary to fulfill that purpose. In other words, data controllers should collect only the personal data they really need and should keep it only for as long as they need it. All right. So this is more on the regulatory side, where um, regulatory bodies or governments set this set uh, this criteria in place, and the concept is known as data minimization. All right, where only the necessary data is should be collected, and it should only be stored while it is needed, and once not needed it should be deleted. All right, so now we are summarizing everything that what we have done so far and what we have covered. So collectively known as CIA, which stands for confidentiality, integrity, and availability, are the three key elements of information security. If any of the three elements is compromised, then there can be serious consequence, both for you as a data controller and for the individual whose data you process. The information security measures you implement should seek to guarantee that all three of all three, both for the system themselves and any data they process. All right, so we want to ensure that the data is the confidentiality is maintained and that integrity is maintained and availability of data. All right, that the data is always available. All right, so and once any one of those three is we are unable to meet any of those three, then there is a data breach. All right, but fundamentally, this is what IT security is all about. All right, so this is the building block on which we practice, in which we carry out our duty as IT professional. All right. So security controls are safeguards or countermeasures to avoid, detect, counteract, or minimize security risks to physical properties, information, computer system, or other assets. In the field of information security, such controls protect the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information. All right. So once again, we're tying the security control back to the CIA triad. All right. And now we will there. This is just a table of the security control um, and the column we are seeing the preventative and what are some of the preventative measures that we can put in place, what are some of the detective measures, what are some of the corrective measures. You can pause the video here and go through it, and then we will see on the left we are seeing the physical, what can be done physically, what can be done from a technical level, and what can be done administratively. All right. And then we go to the different state of data. So data um, is so can be in three states: the data at rest, data in motion, data in use. All right, and data at rest can be so that's when so which we should ensure that the data at rest and that the data that is stored on your server on your machine that is stored on the hard drive, we should ensure that it's properly encrypted and the proper mechanic the proper tool is in place to ensure that unauthorized users are not able to access that data. All right, and data in transit, yeah, so ensure that um, the data that you are sending across is encrypted, so unauthorized users are not able to um, access the data while it is in transit and to make any alteration to the data. All right, so they should not be able to access and they should not be able to alter the data. All right, and then we're talking about data in use. So when you're using your data and your applications, um, just as important also, ensure that the data is not accessible. The application that is using the data is not accessible also, where a denial of service attack is carried out. So, all right, but you're getting the concept. And then we talk about data loss prevention systems or tool or software which detects potential data breach, data exfiltration, transmission, and prevents them by monitoring, detecting, and blocking sensitive data. All right, so this scans the network, it scans the endpoint devices and for like servers and workstation and ensure that no sensitive data is detected. Once sensitive data is detected, then an alert is sent to the management console. All right. And then we talk about data minimization, which involves limiting data collection to only what is required to fulfill a specific purpose. All right. And this ties in with the data policies and data and regulation that as IT security professionals that we ought to follow or that we must follow based on the because it is set up by the regulatory body. All right. And that is it. And I thank you very much for joining me in my first video, first of many video. All right. And so please like, share, and subscribe. Take care. Goodbye.